Convention on the Prohibition of Military or any other hostile use of environmental modification techniques. Done at New York on the 10th of December 1976, entry into force, the 5th of October 1978. The states parties to this convention, guided by the interest of consolidating peace, and wishing to contribute to the cause of halting the arms race, and of bringing about general and complete disarmament under strict and effective international control, and of saving mankind from the danger of using new means of warfare. Determined to continue negotiations with a view to achieving effective progress towards further measures in the field of disarmament. Recognizing that scientific and technical advances may open new possibilities with respect to modification of the environment. Recalling the declaration of the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment, adopted at Stockholm on the 16th of June 1972, realizing that the use of environmental modification techniques for peaceful purposes could improve the interrelationship of man and nature and contribute to the preservation and improvement of the environment for the benefit of present and future generations. Recognizing, however, that military or any other hostile use of such techniques could have effects extremely harmful to human welfare. Desiring to prohibit effectively military or any other hostile use of environmental modification techniques in order to eliminate the dangers to mankind from such use, and affirming their willingness to work towards the achievement of this objective. Desiring also to contribute to the strengthening of trust among nations and to the further improvement of the international situation in accordance with the purposes and principles of the Charter of the United Nations. Have agreed as follows. Article 1. Each state party to this convention undertakes not to engage in military or any other hostile use of environmental modification techniques having widespread, long-lasting or severe effects as the means of destruction, damage or injury to any other state party. 2. Each state party to this convention undertakes not to assist, encourage or induce any state, group of states or international organization to engage in activities contrary to the provisions of paragraph 1 of this article. Article 2, as used in Article 1, the term environmental modification techniques refers to any technique for changing through the deliberate manipulation of natural processes or the dynamics, composition or structure of the Earth, including its biota, lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere, or of outer space. Article 3, 1. The provisions of this convention shall not hinder the use of environmental modification techniques for peaceful purposes and shall be without prejudice to the generally recognized principles and applicable rules of international law concerning such use. 2. The states parties to this convention undertake to facilitate, and have the right to participate in, the fullest possible exchange of scientific and technological information on the use of environmental modification techniques for peaceful purposes. States parties in a position to do so shall contribute, alone or together with other states or international organizations, to international economic and scientific cooperation in the preservation, improvement and peaceful utilization of the environment, with due consideration for the needs of the developing areas of the world. Article 4. Each state party to this convention undertakes to take any measures it considers necessary in accordance with its constitutional processes to prohibit and prevent any activity in violation of the provisions of the convention anywhere under its jurisdiction or control. Article V. 1. The states parties to this convention undertake to consult one another and to cooperate in solving any problems which may arise in relation to the objectives of, or in the application of the provisions of, the convention. Consultation and cooperation pursuant to this article may also be undertaken through appropriate international procedures within the framework of the United Nations and in accordance with its charter. These international procedures may include the services of appropriate international organizations, as well as of a consultative committee of experts as provided for in paragraph 2 of this article. 2. For the purposes set forth in paragraph 1 of this article, the depository shall, within 1 month of the receipt of a request from any state party to this convention, convene a consultative committee of experts. Any state party may appoint an expert to the committee whose functions and rules of procedure are set out in the annex, which constitutes an integral part of this convention. The committee shall transmit to the depository a summary of its findings of fact, incorporating all views and information presented to the committee during its proceedings. The depository shall distribute the summary to all states parties. 3. Any state party to this convention which has reason to believe that any other state party is acting in breach of obligations deriving from the provisions of the convention may lodge a complaint with the Security Council of the United Nations. Such a complaint should include all relevant information as well as all possible evidence supporting its validity. 4. Each state party to this convention undertakes to cooperate in carrying out any investigation which the Security Council may initiate, in accordance with the provisions of the Charter of the United Nations, on the basis of the complaint received by the Council. The Security Council shall inform the states parties of the results of the investigation. 5. Each state party to this convention undertakes to provide or support assistance, in accordance with the provisions of the Charter of the United Nations, to any state party which so requests, if the Security Council decides that such party has been harmed or is likely to be harmed as a result of violation of the Convention. Article V. 1. Any state party to this convention may propose amendments to the convention. The text of any proposed amendment shall be submitted to the depository, who shall promptly circulate it to all states parties. 2. An amendment shall enter into force for all states parties to this convention which have accepted it, upon the deposit with the depository of instruments of acceptance by a majority of states parties. Thereafter it shall enter into force for any remaining state party on the date of deposit of its instrument of acceptance. Article 7. This convention shall be of unlimited duration. Article 8. 1. 5 years after the entry into force of this convention, a conference of the states parties to the convention shall be convened by the depository at Geneva, Switzerland. The conference shall review the operation of the convention with a view to ensuring that its purposes and provisions are being realized, and shall in particular examine the effectiveness of the provisions of paragraph 1 of Article I in eliminating the dangers of military or any other hostile use of environmental modification techniques. 2. At intervals of not less than 5 years thereafter, a majority of the states parties to this convention may obtain, by submitting a proposal to this effect to the depository, the convening of a conference with the same objectives. 3. If no conference has been convened pursuant to paragraph 2 of this article within 10 years following the conclusion of a previous conference, the depository shall solicit the views of all states parties to this convention, concerning the convening of such a conference. If 1/3 or 10 of the states parties, whichever number is less, respond affirmatively, the depository shall take immediate steps to convene the conference. Article 9. 1. This convention shall be open to all states for signature. Any state which does not sign the convention before its entry into force in accordance with paragraph 3 of this article may accede to it at any time. 2. This convention shall be subject to ratification by signatory states. Instruments of ratification or accession shall be deposited with the Secretary-General of the United Nations. 3. This convention shall enter into force upon the deposit of instruments of ratification by 20 governments in accordance with paragraph 2 of this article. 4. For those states whose instruments of ratification or accession are deposited after the entry into force of this convention, it shall enter into force on the date of the deposit of their instruments of ratification or accession. 5. The depository shall promptly inform all signatory and acceding states of the date of each signature, the date of deposit of each instrument of ratification or accession, and the date of the entry into force of this convention and of any amendments thereto, as well as of the receipt of other notices. 6. This convention shall be registered by the depository in accordance with Article 102 of the Charter of the United Nations. Article X. This convention, of which the English, Arabic, Chinese, French, Russian and Spanish texts are equally authentic, shall be deposited with the Secretary-General of the United Nations, who shall send duly certified copies thereof to the governments of the signatory and acceding states. In witness whereof, the undersigned, being duly authorized thereto by their respective governments, have signed this convention, opened for signature at Geneva on the 18th day of May, 1977. Annexed to the Convention, Consultative Committee of Experts. 1. The Consultative Committee of Experts shall undertake to make appropriate findings of fact and provide expert views relevant to any problem raised pursuant to paragraph 1 of Article V of this Convention by the state party requesting the convening of the committee. 2. The work of the Consultative Committee of Experts shall be organized in such a way as to permit it to perform the functions set forth in paragraph 1 of this annex. The committee shall decide procedural questions relative to the organization of its work, where possible by consensus, but otherwise by a majority of those present and voting. There shall be no voting on matters of substance. 3. The depository or his representative shall serve as the chairman of the committee. 4. Each expert may be assisted at meetings by one or more advisors. 5. Each expert shall have the right, through the chairman, to request from states, and from international organizations, such information and assistance as the expert considers desirable for the accomplishment of the committee's work.